when deciding to put out this book. It is How My Medicine, right? It is Cannabis Facts A to Z. This book I found to be really interesting in the sense that it taught me so much in terms of how cannabis could actually help. Right, I was having a conversation with my father actually this past Father's Day weekend, and I was saying it's interesting the view of cannabis and how even people in my family have changed their view on cannabis since I embraced coming out socially, smoking weed online 5 years ago, and kind of all the stigmas I faced with relation to that. But how you cannot deny, when you see someone with, MS or Parkinson's or some similar things that are presenting, and something simple as smoking a joint takes them from shaking uncontrollably to being able to have full, functionality of their body, right? With the understanding that all medications don't work the same for everyone. And so, I would say, not being an expert, that cannabis doesn't work the same for everybody, but it surely does a lot of people. Yes. And so, I'm learning a lot just from reading the book. But, you kind of took a focus in terms of making it palatable and even understandable for children. Can you talk to me about, where your thought process was in terms of, taking it from that perspective?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I had to plug my laptop on, or laptop in because my battery was getting low. So what inspired me to write this book was just pretty much after nearly a decade in the realms of cannabis advocacy, I saw a huge gap in educational materials specifically for children. And I wanted to create something fun, approachable, and factual that would help families explain cannabis in an honest and stigma-free way. I was highly inspired by Jack Herrera and his book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, which essentially is a textbook. For anybody who's not familiar with the book, is like a textbook about the cannabis plant and its history for adults. And I realized that nothing quite like this existed for children. And I believe this book will be an essential tool in opening up doors and minds to forward-thinking and honest conversations about the cannabis plant for both children and adults. Because while the book is written to appeal to the younger generation as well, like young kids, but the information in it is for everybody. Yes, there's graphics in there. There's like child-friendly like graphics and stuff in there as well, because of course I want to keep kids interested and engaged with what they're learning. And there's been studies that have been done that show like when you add like colorful elements that it draws their attention, and it actually helps them learn and retain better. So, and even for adults. And I was actually, not that I endorse him as a person, because we've grown to realize our childhoods have been destroyed. But I was highly inspired by the stylistic writing of Dr. Seuss. I don't endorse him as a person. He's a POS bigot, as we found out. But one thing about his writing is that it appeals to all ages. Adults, kids, teens, everybody in between has found themselves drawn or gravitated to a Dr. Seuss book that they still know and love to this day.
And recite it to this day. I know that's right.
Exactly.
1 fish, 2 fish, 3 fish, red fish, blue fish, man. I swear to God.
Not in a box, not with a
box. Give a dog a bone. Oh my God.
Yes, I'm sorry, but no, I get
That reminds me of Don't Be a Menace in South Central. One fish.
You heard
what she said. Look, I know she's in the great state of Ohio.
Damn!
She got me wanting to say, where you from?
Like, hold on. Wait a minute.
I'm from Northwest Ohio.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question. Is salt and pepper seasoning?
No, well, that's just a base. That's just a standard. That's not seasoning. That's standard.
Oh my God! You
I was actually a chef for over 10 years in the culinary realm. Yeah, that was my first creative endeavor. I actually segued into writing because of just big life shifts. My more or less to do with my children. I couldn't do the 9 to 5 anymore, so I had to reframe my entire life and just regroup everything. My life turned upside down on its head. Things happened in my life, and I needed to find a new path. I did not want to walk away from the culinary field. That was a huge passion of mine, still is. I still cook at home all the time. I made some Korean barbecue stir fry the other day. That was really great. I actually hooked up my friend with some spaghetti and meatballs too for like leftovers. Like cooking is a love language to me. I love to cook, and I don't like Guy Fieri or anything like that.
Hey, I don't shy away from the kitchen.
He's kind of a tool bag, but I want to go to Flavor Town, okay? And I want people to enjoy my food. Food is love, you know what I mean? Food is care. Food is everything. There's
it's
so
an
much
expression.
In food too.
Yeah,
there's so
it
much,
says a lot about
love
you.
in food. Yeah, because like when you cook even a simple meal, you have to think like even like spaghetti and meatballs, like the history and like everything. You have to respect. Respect for food is huge to me because like food is culture. You know what I mean? So like I'm huge on that. So
I'm
yeah,
still gonna put some hot sauce on it though. I'm still putting hot sauce on it though.
Oh my God!
It gives me heartburn anymore, but I still like spicy foods.
Oh my God!
But I kind of want to circle back for just a moment, and I want to talk about why I wanted to focus on children. And like the book is for all ages, but I do focus on appealing this book to like younger generations. And this isn't to shy away anybody from the book because y'all have read the book. The book is for everybody.
It's for everybody.
It's for everybody. But I don't want it to start and stop with adults and teens because that's where the conversation has been focused. This is, like I said, the title is How My Medicine Helps Me, Cannabis Facts from A to Z, an educational book about the cannabis plant for all ages for a reason. But I wanted to focus on kids as my audience because kids are often surrounded by misinformation, especially in today's society, or silence when it comes to cannabis and other social issues as well. And this book empowers them with age-appropriate information and facts to help families start meaningful conversations that are rooted in truth and not rhetoric. Fact over fiction. Kids begin learning from the moment they are born. Let's be real, because people like to ask, like, don't you think that this book is not appropriate for young kids? But they start learning for the moment they're born. So in my opinion, like, I'm a firm believer that education has no age limit and kids need to be informed early on. The earlier kids start learning things, the more that they can study up and like, you know, educate themselves even further. And that's what I want to do. Like somebody asked me why I don't have a bibliography in this book. It's because I want people to do the research and educate and show, like, see that, like, I shouldn't have to cite all the, you know, everything to know. Like, I want people to do the research. That's what people don't want to do.
Right.
I want them to look into it and be like,
don't take my word for it. That's my favorite reading Rainbow. You know, don't take my word for it.
I was very torn about it. And like, I was like, at first I was going to, and I was going to have a glossary. Stupid Dr. Seuss, who ended up being a stupid freaking racist, bigot, you know, piece of crap person,
he didn't need
can make
one.
up all these. Right. Can make up all these nonsense words that have no real meaning. Why don't I introduce an actual, like, articulate, expanded vocabulary to kids so they are learning, you know, not just learning nonsense words, but actual learning facts and expanding their vocabulary. Sure. Like, kids are smart. We do not give kids enough credit.
No, we don't.
And like, I feel really strongly that putting like barriers up like that, it only, like, okay, let's say I added the bibliography. That's not going to encourage anybody to do the research because they're like, oh, I see all this right here. You know what I mean? Adding, you know, the vocabulary, you know, like a glossary type thing isn't going to encourage people to look up other things as well. Like, I'm trying to, like, educate people, but I'm also trying to encourage people to do the research themselves because honestly, like, I started as a chef from Ohio. My journey into advocacy was, you know, honestly, it was kind of kismet. It just happened universally. My life shifted, and that gave me more time and space to really speak on things and be more involved in things that I wanted to be involved in. Like, I went back to school for journalism. I started writing and doing news articles. I started, you know, reaching out when people want to talk to me. I would just like kind of show up to places and be like, you're going to hear what I have to say. Like, if you're not going to invite me here, I'm just going to bring my own chair and show up anyway, or bring a microphone and start talking. You know what I mean?
Table.
Like,
doggone right.
And eventually, over time, people would seek me out and be like, no, I really want to listen to what she has to say. No, I want to talk to this person. You know what I mean? Because she's talking about things that other people aren't. And that's mainly what I try to talk about when it comes to my writing, my advocacy, is I want to highlight the things that everybody else isn't really talking about as much. And I'm not saying nobody's talking about it, but there's not enough conversation around it. So,
and that's where I think that your book comes in just a great way. And with it being palatable for children all the way through adults, you know, being a social worker myself, one of the things I'm always talking to people about is putting things in your toolbox, whether it's coping skills or the like. And so what I find your book to be is a tool, right? It is a conversation starter for parents who may not have the education or the knowledge, right? They themselves can become aware, and it opens the door to having those conversations with their children.
Well, even just like people who don't have kids, you know what I mean? Like, or anybody, or even somebody who doesn't use cannabis, somebody who's curious about cannabis, somebody who's been on the fence about it, somebody, even like seasoned smokers, like such as y'all, who said that you found information in that book that you did not know about.
It's his fault.
You know what I mean?
It's his fault.
And it encouraged you guys, who have been, you know, like your veteran smokers, you know what I mean? Veteran cannabis advocates, and encouraged you guys to even do more research about the things that I was talking about with your book. Like, that is exactly why. So like, I don't want it to start and stop with kids. I know that it is a book that does like have like appeal to younger generations because that's our future. You know what I mean? And I also realized, you know, in my time in advocacy that I think my earbuds died actually. When y'all talk.
Hey.
Okay, yep, nope, just kidding. They're still on.
Right.
No, it's good. I'm enjoying this conversation thoroughly.
Sure.
That's why I plugged my laptop in. I was like, we're not done yet. We're not done here. But no, like I want to encourage people to start those conversations. And this book isn't just for, people who smoke, or part of, the community, and like, or are, medical users or recreational users or what have you, because technically via the endocannabinoid system, all cannabis use is medicinal. Like, let's be real. Because yeah,
For sure.
So like whether people are just recreationally smoking, you're still benefiting your medical, the medical side of it. You're still seeing the medical benefits of it because you are enriching your endocannabinoid system with whatever cannabinoids your body might be deficient in, and that's why cannabis is such a versatile medicine for so many different conditions. It's why it can be used to be treated for cancer, to cerebral palsy, and the list goes on and on, muscular dystrophy, things like that. It's why it's such a well-rounded medication, is because it's the endocannabinoid system. When you absorb cannabis, your endocannabinoid system pulls, the cannabinoids that are being absorbed in your body, however you consume it, and it's filling those gaps within your body. And that's how it's able to treat so many different conditions. And the endocannabinoid system is something that is only now just being more talked about. I spent a good chunk of my life touring the state of Ohio, educating lawyers, doctors, legislators, professors, scientists, and everyday people, teachers, about the science behind cannabis and the endocannabinoid system, so much that I was deemed an expert in the state by the state of Ohio in cannabis science and medicine. And I knew more about it than where I was like, I didn't as a journalist. So I was on the opposite end of and I was the interviewer and they were the interviewee. And I was interviewing a neuroscientist PhD doctor who knew less about the science behind cannabis than I did, because his focus wasn't cannabis. He did clinical trials on like psilocybin and LSD and cannabis, but he was telling me his experience with doing these trials and how much harder it was for him to get access to cannabis. And when he did, they sent him a vial of resin that was in like a saline type solution and wasn't even usable. But when he wanted to study psilocybin or LSD, he got mass quantities, way more than he needed, of uncut, just like the purest of the pure. Yeah. And it was crazy. So like, because the article that I was writing was about patents. I was writing an article about patent 6630507, which is the U.S. patent on the medical properties of the cannabis plant versus the Schedule I conflict. That was the whole topic of the entire article. So that's why I was interviewing him. And he was like, I feel like I'm learning more from you than whatever. And he I've been invited to like colleges and stuff to give like public speaking to educate people. Sorry, I'm boring him over here.
No, it's not you.
I'm joking. But like,
no, I promise.
So, like, I've made a point to like make education the focal of what I do, because like I said, it's all about reframing cannabis as a drug to cannabis is an invaluable resource. So right. I feel like that's what sets this book apart from other educational tools and even kids books, because there are, let's be real, there are like children's books about cannabis out there. There are What's Growing in Grandma's Garden, that's a really good one, and there's many others. And actually I made a point to read them all, and before I even wrote this book, because I didn't want to redo something that's already been done. I wasn't trying to mirror somebody else's work, I noticed that nothing quite out there like what I've done exists. And I feel like it sets it apart in a litany of ways, because I do center around education and facts more so than trying to make it like, I don't know.
It's not preachy, right?
Watered down. Right. Well, what I mean?
It's not preachy. It's not preachy, but you're right. But it's also not diluted, right? It's giving what Joe said from the jump. It's your approach, not just to writing this book, but it's your approach to caring for people through advocacy and all of the things that you do in your life, which is head on, right? And so it might not be, abrasive, but it sure is to the point.
Yeah, it's definitely. It's very it's written in a fun, free-flowing poetry style that's both playful and engaging, but it's packed with transparent and digestible information. And while this book is geared towards kids, adults can very well take away something from reading it as well. And I just feel like it's going to help families and it's going to help families and communities grow together in knowledge and seek out more knowledge and information. And that's like the whole point and message of the book is. Just going back,
I think the average reader and the average potential consumer of cannabis, or someone who has very little to no information about cannabis, no matter where your familiarity is, you're going to learn something from this book, in terms of how it impacts people in their daily lives and how many people it actually helps. You know, how many people are living, you know, their best life that is available to them because of cannabis in some form, and it's not always
improving, improving their quality of life overall. And even like I said, even if you don't smoke, you know what I mean, it's good to educate yourself and to know more about the plant in general. Because like I said, you know, it doesn't have to affect you for people to care. Like, you know, your neighbor could be like, yeah, I have Parkinson's or something like that, you know what I mean? Or just like it doesn't matter. You know, you should want to know more about this plant, especially due to the societal injustice that has surrounded this plant and the fact that we still have plant prisoners locked up and facing, you know, like ungodly sentences for a harmless plant. A non-violent crime, you know what I mean? And it's just it's if that alone, even if you're not a smoker or not whatever, that should be enough to want to know more about the plant and to educate the younger generations about the plant. Because honestly, like the whole framework behind how cannabis was used to weaponize against Black and brown communities, to me is honestly like a huge reason for me writing this book too, is to like I said, to reframe the conversation away from this is just terrible and bad and wrong to actually what's terrible and bad and wrong is the fact that we have not been talking about the actual facts of this plant, and that it's time to speak out about it. And everybody, even if you're just educating yourself, that's doing something. Because guess what? You're gonna run into somebody and you're gonna be like, hey, guess what? I guess, you know what I mean? Like the conversation keeps going that way, because then you educate somebody else and then they educate somebody else, and then it goes on and on and on. This book was never about me or about money or about anything. The only reason I'm here physically doing this right now is I'm not trying to make myself a face here, you know what I mean? But I'm just the vessel, you know what I mean, for the message. The message is the main thing that I like to just keep things focused on, because like it's I talk about so much in this book. I know the title is How My Medicine Helps Me, Cannabis Facts from A to Z. I just really latched on to that title because I'm a poet, I'm a writer. I like the way it flowed, the way it sounded. It fit.
When something goes together, it goes together. No matter how it might sound I'm not gonna say obtuse, but it sounds like see, I'm horrible with words, but the thoughts in my head and I can never get the shit out. It's so horrible. But I get what you're saying.
I love rhythmic. I love rhythmic. I think it goes back to what Tiffany was talking about with Dr. Seuss in terms of having that ability to remember it, just like your favorite song.
Yeah,
right.
That's another reason. That's another reason why I chose rhyming scheme, because rhyming scheme helps people like remember, like how they can memorize song lyrics, and like people are going to remember the facts easier if it's in like a free flowing poetry style like that. It's sticky. It sticks in your brain. So that was another reason why I went with that. And I wanted it to stand out. I wanted it to be different. I wanted it to be unlike any cannabis book that anyone's ever read before. You know what I mean? Because it does. I know this is me trying to toot my own, like, whatever. This is honestly just like a labor of love for trying to make this book as good, it just is the best it could be, because honestly, like, I feel a great weight even putting this book out and like putting my name, you know what I mean? Because there's a huge message here. I talk about not just the medicinal aspects, but environmental, economical, historical, and social justice. Like I cover all kinds of different topics in this book. So the title itself, it isn't just central to the medicinal aspects of cannabis. Yes, I do go through a litany of different conditions that this medicine does treat. And I also talk about the fact that I'm not saying that, you know, cannabis only kind of thing. I understand the fact that people, you need to utilize Western medicine and prescription pills. And like, I talk about how that no stigmatization should be given to either treatment as long as the patient benefits. Like I myself, you know, I'm in therapy. I've been prescribed sertraline, which is anti-anxiety medication. You know, so it's like, I'm not against pharmaceutical medication. But what I am for, and I also talk about opiate addiction. I do see the damage that pharmaceuticals have done. People like talk about, like, you talk about opiate addiction in a book that, you know, is supposed to be for all ages and read, you know, potentially read to kids. And I'm like, yes, I do, because their friends, family members, and loved ones have been affected and touched by it in some way. And God, I hope they don't. But the likelihood of it now in today's society is higher, you know, and it's there.
The problem is we try to sweep things under the rug, and we need to be able to confront things head on.
I want to say it's like 1 in 8.
1 in 8.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. 1 in 8.
Because you were talking about but it's with the kids. It's for a younger stuff. Like we're talking about with kids. I may be off on my numbers, but it's just when you said that, it just popped in my head. You're right. It's your kid. It's not us. We know the druggies in our life. We know who they are. We know who to stay from. Our kids don't know that. They don't know what to look for.
I want to say something too in regards to anybody who's listening who possibly potentially has struggled, is struggling with addiction. I'm not trying to speak in any kind of demeaning way towards that. I talk very gently about the subject in the book. I talk about how cannabis has been a way for people to come out of addiction and things like that. But it's not to shine a bad light or a negative light on anybody who has or is struggling with addiction. I know that is a entirely like it's a battle. It's touched my family personally, and I have not struggled with it myself, but I've seen it in real time, and I've seen how it tears, people and families and like everything. But also from the person's perspective, from their, from that central, like I wanted to be very delicate about that because I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm not here to cast. I'm just here to show people that there are other, potential resources. And of course, a lot of people do know that cannabis is an alternative to opiate addiction and things like that, and helping people recover from it. You know what I mean? And on the recovery side of things, or on the other side of it. And also it's to talk about and to frame this for the younger generation. So they know, so they come empowered, because guess what? These kids are going to grow up and they're going to get peer pressure. And I want them to be educated on these things.
What is this?
And right, exactly. Because like we need to have these conversations that way, they have, a little bit more in their tool belt, and they can be maybe a little bit better prepared for the real world when they grow up. It's not to single out anybody with addiction or anything like that. Like I said, I talk about prescription bills in the book too, and how I see nothing wrong with either cannabis use or prescription medication, as long as the patients are benefiting, as long as it's within the best interest of the patients and they're seeing quality of life.
Yes.
I've got a comment from Johnny, who has popped back in, who says, "What's the book?" What do you mean, what's the book? It's what we're talking about. It is how my medicine helps me. Cannabis Facts A to Z, and you can have a chance to get your copy. Tiffany, tell them how they can get their chance to get that copy.
All you have to do is be watching the live stream and leave a comment, or you can tag friends and everything too. The more comments that you leave, the more entries that you'll have. Every comment's an entry. I'm gonna draw at random after the show and shoot these fine fellows a message and let them know who the winner is, and they can announce it on their page. And then I will have them put them in connection with me. And all I need is an email that is attached to an Amazon account. I know Amazon's hot button, but it is the only way that I can send the ebook at this point. I'm sorry about that. So to win, you do have to, for the ebook, you do have to have an email that's connected to an Amazon account so I can send it to you.
But it is free on
me. Yes. Yeah, and actually, I do have a website that I actually built myself as well, to where people can
drop it in the link.
I'm actually just on StreamYard right now. I'm not even on the Facebook. I just
Well, get all those links. I apologize that I don't have them dropped already.
No, you're fine.
But I definitely
we can drop the links in the comments, because I've just been so engaged in the conversation. I'm not I wasn't even on Facebook. I'm just on StreamYard.
For sure. But I want to ask though, we're well past an hour, and I appreciate all your time. I clearly want to have you back at some point, so that we can continue this conversation. But I want to know, just from you, as someone who has been boots on the ground for a better part of a decade, let's call it, what is next? What do you need from us as ordinary, everyday people on the local, state, and federal level to continue this conversation and to see progress made when it comes to stigmas in cannabis and how it helps people?
Education is key. For one, education is the central point of where advocacy starts and stops. The more you know, the more you know. The more you know, the more you grow. So education first. Two, also getting your community involved, or getting in if your community isn't, as proactive, or, I know people and other people's lives, friends, family can be, difficult. Join organizations, find local orgs. Even if you can't participate, boots on the ground, maybe you can do like social media work for them, or maybe you can help share things, or maybe, you can find your own way that is comfortable for you, because I understand that everybody can't be boots on the ground. There's disabled people who literally like cannot be physically present for certain things, and so like just find your way, even if it's just educating yourself and sharing articles or things like that, to keep the conversation going. That's first and foremost the most important thing. Education and keeping the conversation going in any way that you can. Find your way, your niche within advocacy, and just steer into what you know and what you're comfortable with, and keep the conversation going, and try to expand beyond what you think where you think advocacy should start and stop, because guess what? It keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going even further, and it's going to keep going long after we die. And that's why I'm trying to make steps right now for other people and the younger generation to follow in, and not just me. Just there's countless people around here, that are doing the work. You know what I mean? I'm a small fraction in the greater scheme, a small fragment in the greater scheme of everything. Keep educating yourself. Keep trying to educate people, because guess what? Education is everything. Policy doesn't shift until public perception does. So education is the bridge that will get us there. Teaching kids facts versus fiction early on helps create a more compassionate, informed future generation, which only helps guide the conversation from viewing social issues as being hot button or controversial to being, no, let's talk about this. And even let's talk about cannabis in regards to that. It shifts them from viewing cannabis as a drug versus viewing it as, like I said, an invaluable resource and life-changing medication. So shifting the narrative is key, but that also starts with shifting our minds. It starts with us, guys. So start with, and if you're already doing work within the community, maybe expand on that. Or if you're not as involved, maybe educate yourself, or maybe find ways that you're comfortable with getting involved. Download apps like 5 Calls, find local orgs in your area. Just read up on theory, especially when it comes to like social issues. It can, cannabis as well, but like read up on theory when it comes to like social issues specifically. Read up on historical aspects of cannabis. The Emperor Wears No Clothes, excellent resource. Cannabis is Medicine by Dr. Bonnie Goldstein. I actually knew her IRL when not like I haven't met her, so I shouldn't say IRL, VRL, virtual, because we were in partnership to help, like I had her and various other doctors around the nation and internationally as well write letters of support for pieces of legislation that I was bringing forth to the state of Ohio in regards to cannabis policy. Just find resources, find books, find free materials. There's all kinds of things on YouTube. Free resources are everywhere. Educate yourself and keep the conversation going, and reach out to me.
Tiffany, I have found you to be an amazing, interesting, fascinating human being, from your taste in music, the movies, to your passion for people, for your willingness to be that vocal, forward, boots on the ground advocate, to your journalistic nature, being an author and educating the world on the flower that helps so many people. You are an amazing person. I thank you so much for coming to hang out with two ordinary guys who smoke. You guys are awesome. You're making me cry. And we talk a little shit.
You're making me cry. Oh my God.
For real, I learned a lot.
Listen. I'm just another nobody like somebody. Let me say that again. I'm just another nobody like somebody. The only thing that separates me and anyone else in the world is the want and will to do something. The want and will to educate yourself. I literally was just a chef from Ohio before all this. Let's backtrack at 10 years. That's where I started. You know what I mean? Anybody can do things to better themselves. Anybody can do things to better, anybody could be me, is what I'm trying to say. Anybody could be me. Don't shortchange yourself. Anyone, you guys, anyone listening, you are so much more than what you think you are. You are capable of so much more than what you think you are. Do not listen to society. Do not listen to the voices in your head, and don't listen to everything that keeps that tells you that you can't.
That's right.
I'm sorry, but say fuck that. Yes, I can, and yes, I will.
Come
on. Because you can. You can.
Keep it plain. As the old church saints used to say, make it plain, baby. Make it plain.
Make plain. Make it so they can understand it. She said, just you fucking can. You can do it.
I was telling Just Bree this afternoon that she's embarking on a week-long adventure at the University of Illinois to acquire some new education for her job. I said, embrace and that includes ignoring everything that is telling you that you can't.
Absolutely. That part. I mean, you have to the way to know that you're doing the right thing is like you're gonna feel nervous about it. You're gonna feel uncomfortable. I guess I could be saying with the wrong thing too. Let's be real. There's two sides to every coin. But if in your heart of hearts, you're trying to come from a good place and do the right thing. But like you will be uncomfortable. It will shake you. You will, have those moments of doubt, but don't let that stuff stop you. If you guys think that I don't get nervous before every single interview, I've done like, God, about 75-ish interviews at this point now.
Yeah.
If you guys don't think that I don't get nervous before every single one, just because I come across as, very well put, I'm nervous. I'm always nervous. I'm always, I always get nerve wracked and everything before I did a couple Pride events within this month, and I'm about to do another one. The last one that I did, not the one that I did yesterday, but the last one that I did, I've been a reoccurring public speaker there, to where I'll do a speech and a poem, and I get so nervous before every time, you know what I mean? And even interviews like this, but guess what? Like, it doesn't mean that like we're not like I'm not any more or less human than y'all, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
I get
just
nervous.
A little more experienced at being a public speaker. It takes time.
I can coach people, you know what I mean? I can help people, you know what I mean? And bolster and honestly, a lot of it's confidence. You have to know this is something that I picked up. I learned so much from my culinary experience that I took into the advocacy realm. We'll get to that on another day. But here's one thing that I learned is like, confidence is everything. I walked into that kitchen every day knowing that I'm going to crush this shit. I'm going to kill this dinner service, lunch, or whatever it was. I'm going to, everything's going to go fluid. I'm not going to, have dishes be coming back, or if I do like whatever, everything's going to be like held the fuck down. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to get through this, and it's going to go and it would, you know what I mean? For the most part, it would. And if I had somebody, because like most of the time, like I would move up in the ranks and I would be the HBIC, back in the kitchen. But here's the thing is I treated myself like I wasn't. I was one of them. You know what I mean? Because I am no more or less human than them. But like when it's easy to get frazzled working a line, you got tickets rolling in. So here, like I'm like, working like it was like dual expo and like headline coach, expediting the orders and telling them when to fire this, that, and the other. And if somebody were to fall behind, like I would literally like talk them through it kind of thing, and help them. And if they couldn't, I would jump the line and do what I needed to do kind of thing until they got there, and then they could step back in. But like handling it in a situation like that versus just like harping on somebody to just like get their shit together, like that's not going to help anybody. You know what I mean?
Gordon Ramsay, you mean the Gordon Ramsay approach? That doesn't work.
It's fucking wrong, you idiot.
Wait a minute.
No. But like Tiffany, like Milk was saying, I've learned so much, like from reading the book and just hearing you speak right now through this little like 2 hours we've been sitting here talking. Just hearing you speak about it, the passion. No, it's all good. No,
we wouldn't be here if we didn't want to be. I'm invested in
Our first hour of the conversation, we were talking about all kinds of very important things. So honestly, I'm not upset about it, and I'd love to come back and talk with you guys again. Anytime.
I'm not trying to kick it off, but I do have a few other prior engagements.
I have to get my son to bed too, so
I definitely want to say that, Tiffany, I give you your roses. I hope nothing but the best and success for you and yours.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what the future seems to hold for you. Milk, as always, brother. You know what it is.
Yeah. One time for the one time, we're going to wrap this thing up the right way, the only way we know how to do it, the Milk and Joe Entertainment way. And that's by saying we hope that you do everything within your power to make it a great day, because it's up to you. Put one foot in front of the other. Keep moving. We appreciate Miss Tiffany Carwile, the award-winning activist, author, and journalist who has stopped by to hang out with us on today for the Godson. I am the Milkman.